Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us in our upcoming webinar on the full customer lifecycle and how a CRM fits into the accounting firm. We're just waiting for a couple of other people to join, but while we wait, let's just do a couple of little housekeeping things and make sure that you guys can hear and see myself, my screen, Amy. If you just comment in the chat box or in the Q&A, whatever's easier, just to say hi, hello, and where you're from.
I'm pretty pumped about our topic today, Ryan.
So am I, actually. That's been disabled. Yep, that's okay. Just use the Q&A for now.
Hey, Nicole. Hey, Ben. Great. This is good. We can hear you all. Wonderful.
Oh, we got someone from all the way from the USA. Welcome. On the West Coast, which is nice. All right, a couple of more people coming through as we speak. Hi, Russell from WA. Thanks for joining. Auckland. Hello. Jean from Hot Cairns. Yes, it's pretty hot down here too. All right, perfect. We'll let those last people join. I'll kick things off with a little bit of a quick introduction. So my name is Ryan Devlin, co-founder and director of Hunt & Hawk. I am joined today with the fantastic, fabulous Amy Holdsworth from Clarity Street. Amy, you want to say hello?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today, Ryan. It's been, I'm really pumped about this, as I just mentioned earlier, for those who didn't hear me. This is going to be a really cool topic. So I'm really looking forward to getting involved with talking about the full customer life cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very pumped. This is a topic that's very close to my passion. I love this technical side of things. And just a big thank you for all of the participants that are joining us today. We know it's a bit tough, and this side of the year is always a little bit hectic, especially when we're trying to wrap things up before our long, well-deserved rest. A little bit of housekeeping. So we've muted everybody just a standard protocol, but we do want you guys to get involved and ask a lot of questions. Prior to the webinar, part of the invitation, we had over 30, 40 plus questions, which we endeavor try to answer as many as we can during today. But if not, there's a bit of a Q&A at the end of today's session that you can chat to us or speak to us directly. We've got a couple of polls just to keep it a little bit more engaging, so we'd love for your participation. And then at the end, as per usual, you'll get a copy of the slides. We'll give you a recording, and there'll be a short survey just for you guys to give us a bit of feedback on not just this webinar, but for maybe potential future webinars or potential future topics that you'd like potentially Amy and I to address. Doesn't necessarily have to be around this space, but we'd love to get your feedback as well. While we still wait for the last people to come through, the agenda for today in a very high level, we're going to cover off the basics. So a lot of people, a lot of firms are speaking to us, and I say us as in Clarity Street and Hunt & Hawk, asking around some of the questions like, what are the best tools? What interacts with sales and marketing activities? And what are some of the observations within the industry? So we're going to take a bit of a dive into those before we move into the software enablement. And then, of course, the perfect journey. And as I mentioned, leaving a big, large chunk at the end for any Q&A that you guys may have. Amy, I know you extremely well. I'm sure a lot of people on the webinar today do as well. But why don't we kick things off with a little bit of an introduction? Who is Clarity Street?
Yeah, so Clarity Street have been, I've been for 10 plus years, same as Anne, who's my business partner. We've got a team now, which is great as well, where we've been expanding, especially over the last 12 months, which has been wonderful. We come from, a combined, background of having both practice management experience. Anne is a CPA qualified 10 plus year accountant as well. So actual practical knowledge around what's going on within the industry. But what Clarity Street actually does is we implement systems, processes, and cloud applications to improve the efficiency of an accounting practice. We work with accountants and bookkeepers. That is our target market, predominantly bookkeepers. The whole point of what we actually do is help firms transition either from desktop-based applications to cloud applications, or for those who have already transitioned, help them get the most out of them. Because, Clarity Street came about because there was a real need, which we identified about 5 years ago, which is all of the applications out there in the cloud-based space are really good at saying, pick me, I do this, I'll solve this problem for you. These are the top things that I will do. Yep. But they kind of fall short in saying, oh, by the way, within your practice, if you also have these 3 other applications, this is how we talk with them. And this is what's going to happen when you start using us from an operational standpoint. So Clarity Street basically helps accounting practices not only connect up the software, but actually get the best practice out of it so that you can spend more time with your clients. You can spend more time actually doing the things that you like. You can enhance the experience for your clients as well by using great technology. But, realistically, get the things done much quicker in a more efficient manner so that you can spend more time dealing with your clients, realistically. So that's what Clarity Street does and who we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can testify that because we've collaborated on a couple of projects thus far. And one of the things that I really pick apart, that you help navigate through the chaos. There are so many different options out there. There's so much white noise, that kind of distracts or helps kind of challenge the, which tool, which platform, what app, does that app talk to this app? Yeah. How does that match my procedures? Every firm is slightly different, and it's important to match what they are currently doing or even looking at what they're doing to see if there's some better other way. And I've always enjoyed our time. I always love working on projects because it's such an interesting dynamics, how they collaborate, sales, marketing, tech. It's awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Quick little introduction into myself and Hunt and Hawk. So very similar to Amy, we came, Sonia and myself, Sonia Venchiki, we established a business about 3 years ago. For a lot of people who probably remember us, we used to work in Panalytics and Proactive Accountant Network. We gained a lot of industry experience. A lot of firms in that time were embracing, what they would call, I guess, modern strategies, implementing cloud, putting offshore team members, value pricing, upselling, cross-selling, etc. But we found a massive gap that a lot of firms, especially in Australia, that, they had kind of already implemented quite a lot of those strategies, but they were still struggling with trying to get new clients. So, landing new clients is all about sales and marketing. So Hunt and Hawk was born. Our niche, primary niche is accountants and financial planners. But our secondary niche, because of our industry knowledge, we work with a lot of fintech and SaaS companies that target accountants as well. As you can see down the bottom, we've worked with Change GPS, Practice Protect, and a handful of others. So yeah, look, I'm very excited around the fact that, firms, especially in Australia, are starting to embrace, traditional sales and marketing techniques that have been around and implemented into other businesses for decades.
Me too. Which is why we're having this conversation.
Absolutely.
Finally starting to talk about it.
Yeah, funny enough. So let's start off. Let's get a little bit of a layout of the land. Let's start a poll. So what Amy and I want to know is, before we jump too far into the basics of sales and marketing and tech, let's find out, do you currently have dedicated sales and marketing resources or plan? We will put roughly maybe 15, maybe 20 seconds for you guys to answer. Tim, if you can run that for me, that would be great. As we come through. Okay, interesting. No surprise, a lot of people are choosing D. No, I wish, but I don't know where to start. But also interesting, a handful of people have ticked A too. Okay. And we'll cut it there. If you want to end the poll, display the poll on the screen, that would be great. Perfect. So, Amy, what do you take of this?
This is pretty standard with the questions that we're getting. Basically, we are going to talk a little bit about this further on when we, throughout the slide decks that we present today. But I, the no, I wish, but where do I start? I think that, that's literally what we're hearing at the moment. The beauty of this, though, is that the industry is starting to get really ready for this conversation. That's what I'm excited by, it is that I look at that and just go, so much potential for growth within, the industry that we both work with, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, my gut feeling was, D and B being the strongest. Often through our interactions, we find that firms might have something simple like maybe a marketing mail sender like MailChimp or even potentially Active Campaign already implemented, but they're just doing the basics, client updates. JobKeeper was quite a great, excuse to keep emailing and marketing to. So we saw a lot of interactions and engagement go through the roof, especially in the first part of 2020. But again, no surprises. This is sales and marketing is often foreign in accounting firms. It's almost like it's completely, and again, it's weird because any other business, any other industry that you operate within, if you have a problem with, say, revenue, your first solution is typically look at your sales. What are you doing? What activities are you doing? How are you managing those activities? How do you tweak it so you get better conversions? Yeah. And often, sales and marketing kind of, they don't have a shared language. So they need to be kind of brought together again. And that's everything that we want to talk about today. Thanks for that, Tim. If you can stop sharing the results, we'll kick into the basics. So what is sales and marketing? To me, marketing is all about the attraction. You need to have a good understanding of who you want to target. It's all about getting the right avatars, seeing the right amount of content. I often make it really simple for our clients by going, define the strategies. Strategies will define the tactic. Tactics will define the activities. If your strategy is, I want to be the number one, or if that's your goal, if your goal is, I want to be well known in the automotive industry, the go-to accountant for anybody that fixes cars, so then you've got to come up with a strategy. You've got to think, okay, how am I going to do this? What are some of the things that I need to implement or execute on a daily, weekly, monthly basis in order for me to reach that goal? But in terms of trying to bite too much off than you can choose, just start basics. What is some of the activities? It might be the fact that you need to get your reach. Start getting a database of quality people that you can, on an ongoing basis at a low cost, continue with marketing. Sales and funny enough, is all about the conversion. Marketing, in fact, an accountant that I regularly talk with mentioned to me yesterday, marketing is almost about like dating, just getting them to the first date. You're not asking for them to marry them. You don't want to necessarily jump straight into that. Just get them to the first date. Sales then convinces them to have a second, a third, and potentially get married later on. If marketing is convincing someone to get married straight away, then they're probably not the right client anyway. They might not be the person who you want to stay with. So sales is everything, is all about the ongoing. How do I keep converting, and how do I keep exploring pain points and opportunities?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the other thing to think about here is going back to that poll that we just recently, talked about, was understanding what your service offering is the key to having a decent marketing and sales plan as well. And I think that that's something that in our industry is potentially missed. Is, people come to an accountant because there's this stereotype around why I go to an accountant, which is to get my tax done. But it's just not that. Like, for all the really great accountants out there, we know that you don't just do tax. We know that there's so many other service offerings that you actually have, basically. So it's, you do need to kind of quantify what your value is and quantify what your service is in order to be able to do the marketing and the sales. Like, be a little bit like, think about it. A lot of other accountants are going to be doing similar things, but it's about how you frame it and position it, essentially. I mean, ultimately, if you look at a sales and marketing tool, like, what is sales and marketing? Realistically, guys, in case you haven't picked up on it, Hunt and Hawk and Clarity Street are currently doing sales and marketing through this webinar. This is what sales and marketing actually is. So we're doing the marketing component right now, whereby, we've nurtured you along the journey. We've sent you some invitations. We're now presenting, our presentation to you. And realistically, like any other event that you attend, there is a high probability that, you will either want to hear from us afterwards or you won't, whichever. That's completely fine. We're no hard feelings on that one. But, we'll probably pick up the phone and call the people who want to hear from us and just touch base to say, hey, how you going? What, do you have any feedback? Would you like to chat further? If the relationship's right, if the service offering is right, then we might progress to the sales stage, basically. But, this is all part of what the sales and marketing thing is. But I think to also understand that is that it does, so marketing tactics or marketing avenues also do look different for each, industry out there. And equally, marketing doesn't always have to be a webinar. It doesn't always have to be an event. Like, there are lots of different things that you can do that, will still generate interest in your business, basically, which is ultimately what the goal is.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of misconceptions which we'll tackle on next. So, when we again interact with accounting firms, all shapes and sizes, we hear some of the most common misconceptions. I don't need to, or I can't afford to market myself. As you just pointed out, marketing doesn't need to be expensive. You don't need to put all the bells and whistles in it. You don't have to do webinars. You don't have to do events. You could do mail outs, emails. You could get potential virtual events. This year went skyrocketed because of obviously COVID. And yet, maybe the engagement level wasn't quite the same, but it was still quite successful. People were still registering, they're still rocking up, and they're still getting educated on a topic. Referrals is all I need. And that's fine. There's a lot of firms out there that, they may not have the same growth ambitions as others. And because they do quite a great job in the client deliverables, they are getting referrals and they're getting lots of them. People are out there. Your cheapest salespeople are always your external clients. They're the ones sitting in pubs, restaurants, barbecues, family gatherings, talking about how good your services are and how you've helped them. Sales is hard. This is something that always cracks me up, because sales is pretty basic. It's listening. It's actively listening and knowing when to prod, knowing when to kind of push a little bit further on a particular pain point. Essentially, it's just matching a solution. Most people will pay, often the stats state that if you can exploit a pain point, people will make faster decisions and they're happy to pay more to eliminate a pain point versus move towards a pleasure. Another good one is clients will ask for services when they need it. And again, this is something close to sales that I see all the time. Nobody's sitting out there at their home, at their work going, I really could do as a cash flow forecast. I'd love for someone to take me for a budgeting session.
Oh, I really want someone to organize my tax planning.
Exactly.
Definitely.
It would be nice, but it doesn't happen. We have to plant that seed. We have to go out there, speak to them, talk to them. Again, exploit that pain point and see if there's something that you can do to help them further. I don't need to do much. I only need 2 clients per month. This is a great misconception. Unfortunately, in marketing, it's not as simple as turn the tap on and in they come. It is something that has to be well executed and well sought out. Sometimes you have to do a lot of activities just to get the 2. Sometimes you can also get lucky. You might run a campaign that, short-lived. It might be 1 or 2 emails spread across, a month and a half, and you might get an influx of inquiries. But traditionally speaking, you almost have to do the same activity. The same activity to get 5 is just as much to get 2.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I was just going to say on the sales one, the other one that I wanted to add to this is, and we talk a lot about this to our clients around the concept or the misconception around what sales actually is. There is such this mentality that sales is like the used car salesman. Like that, and it just feels like a lot of accountants, unfortunately, that we speak to at times actually do feel really kind of almost icky when you talk about sales. So they just associate sales with, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to force somebody to buy something that they may not want, and it's like actually not. You guys, as an advisor, in the accounting industry especially, you've already built up that trust with your clients, especially your current clients. New clients is a little bit different, obviously, but current clients, in order to obviously provide additional value and sell more products to your clients, you've already built up that trust. They already trust your ability and your knowledge. So providing them with additional services literally comes down to exactly what you said, which is it's actually more about listening and prompting and investigating what you think that would be right for them, but realistically listening to what they need and then saying, actually, we can help with that. That's a sale.
Absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely.
but the concept around, you're not selling something just for the sake of it. It's actually, you're providing a service that they need.
Spot on. Yeah. It's almost a bit of a disservice by not asking those
Yeah.
questions, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
exactly
the
it.
old selling is servicing. That's the whole mentality that we need to embrace and move away from car salespeople.
Yeah,
more
and
into
so
helping.
and opening up another can of worms, but the selling your time.
Oh,
Oh, that's another webinar in itself. But like,
exactly.
I don't come to my accountant because I want to pay for his time. I go to my accountant because I value his knowledge and his expertise. Something that, as you said, I'm not sitting in my living room going, oh, I should probably get a cash flow done.
Exactly.
Whereas if my advisor, my trusted advisor said to me, you know what, it's probably time that we really consider this. Is this something that you'd like me to help with? Because this is what it's going to provide for you. This is the, pardon the pun, clarity that you're going to get by having one. I'm going to go, yes, thank you very much. Please organize that for me. That makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a pretty good segue because, the problems that exist, I find the big problems why firms haven't started sales, marketing, or tech implementation is because they don't feel like they have the time, right? Like they feel like their time is getting chewed up or used by either internal or external focuses, whereas it needs to be invested in the right areas. Again, sales and marketing, I don't ever want to say it's easy, but it's definitely not that hard when you have the right strategy in place. Coming up with ideas and strategies. There's hundreds of different ways that you can market and sell services. You can jump onto webinars like this. You can jump onto Google. You can look at what's been, tried and tested in similar industries or even just business selling. There's some similarities between selling an accounting service as it is to selling, say, a software service. It's all the same. Understanding what the problems are and putting together the solution. People need to understand what are the right activities. So often this is the number one problem. What activity, right? What do I do? Tell me. There's no silver bullet. There's no shortcut. There's no, just do emails and you will get clients. It is a combination. Mm-hmm. Getting the execution right and articulating their value. That is two of the biggest skill gap that I've observed. Making sure that they do it. And, funny enough, the solutions to those two are consult experts. Don't wing it, talk and plan and take actions. Get clear on pain points and need. Use direct response sales and marketing tactics so that you are getting reasons why to call somebody. All it takes. Get them to that first date, do everything else naturally after that point forward. So some of the observations. Amy, why don't you take it from here? So what are some of the observations that you're seeing within the accounting industry?
So some of the observations, I guess, that I'm seeing in the accounting industry at the moment, and this is a bit of it. We actually just wrote a blog piece on this, which is we've just added a new application to our app stack, which we've added HubSpot. Realistically, you could insert another CRM piece of software, but we have added HubSpot because there are various reasons which we'll talk about a little bit more. But and it's a little bit of I don't want to say it's a bone of contention, but there is definitely something in the accounting industry where some people have really mixed opinions about whether you actually need to have sales and marketing for the accounting industry or whether you don't. Like, do you really need to have a piece of software for sales and marketing? Come on, guys. Whereas I kind of look at this and go, I think it's a little bit different because on one hand, realistically, by nature of the fact that the ATO has dictated that all Australians need to essentially, need to have a tax return done. Not all, but you get where I'm going with that. Read between the lines of my interpretation. They have basically dictated that you will always have a constant, steady flow of clients, whether it's tax or whether it's off the back of tax, all of the accounting and other, business advisory services that you basically need in order to either run your business or from a personal level. So the accounting and bookkeeping industry will always have clients, no matter what. That's the beauty of this.
That's the beauty. Yeah, absolutely.
Having said that, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have quality clients, and it's not going to, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to have the type of clients that you also want to service either, right? So I think one of the things that we're really seeing at the moment more than anything is accountants are starting to get really savvy with what type of clients they actually want to attract and what they want to work with. So rather than just being a catch-all, we'll just work with anybody who wants to get their work done with us, then, and you still will, generally speaking, that's fine, but the more savvy accountants out there and business owners, in my opinion, what we're seeing is they're actually starting to go, hang on a second, we either want a niche, maybe niche, or more so, we actually want to start trying to attract clients that we really want to work with. So similar like-minded personalities, like-minded businesses, those kinds of things. So in order to do that, you need to actually start tracking and measuring, I guess, what realistically, you're doing within the whole sales and marketing process, which is why it's kind of exciting. And this is honestly the reason why we're having this discussion today, because people are asking about it. We're getting firms now saying, well, what are you doing for sales and marketing? I know I should probably do something. And my question is always, well, what's your strategic plan?
Yeah.
Do you want growth? Or do you want that as in you want more clients, or do you want higher value clients? So same number of clients roughly, but a higher value. So that's the first question that I personally think that you probably have to answer from a business, of why you want to employ sales and marketing. But also knowing that it's, sales and marketing isn't always just necessarily, to, I guess, obtain more sales to a certain degree. It's also to nurture your client base to a certain degree as well. So from the marketing element, it is also not only to attract new clients, yes, to attract current clients, to obtain new services, but it's also about, I guess, nurturing that client base too, which we'll talk a little bit more about too. So I think it's the biggest bone of contention right now is, do we actually need a piece of software to manage this process? And I think the challenge as well for the accounting industry to a degree is a lot of, compared to other industries, the lead time for your sales process it's nowhere near as long as what it is for other industries. So if you look at it from, most people will come to you because they've been referred by a friend. They'll have a chat with you, they'll size you up as a personality and a service, and they'll kind of go either yes or no. Most accountants would, can attest to the fact that they have a pretty high conversion rate because they understand what the client needs. They provide a service. The client goes, or the lead, before they become a client, goes, yes, they're now a client. Tick, win. That's easy. So do you even need a piece of software to manage this? That is hence the contention point. I say yes, you do, because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want to,
exactly
that stuff basically? But what's your thoughts, Ryan?
Well, mine's very similar. We're working with a couple of firms at the moment that have actually employed dedicated sales and marketing resources, BDMs, marketing coordinators, marketing managers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like anything, technology is essentially the vehicle. You're always going to need the driver. You're always going to need somebody to utilize it so you get the most out of it. What I find always amazing when I do speak to firms is that, the path from where it went, as you just mentioned, word of mouth, referral, we met, and then they said yes. That's the positive road. That's the most positive route that could happen. What I find is interesting is nobody measures the negative road, which is, I did my meeting, I presented, I put the proposal, and then I never heard back from them, the flat line. Mm-hmm. And that's where marketing to me goes, well, that's where the technology can kick in. Yeah. You don't need to actually dedicate a person to keep following up, because nobody likes that. Nobody likes to go, oh, hey, it's me again. Get a chance to review the proposal. What are your thoughts? You almost kind of run out of things to say on the call or the meeting. So that's where technology can fill that gap really nicely.
Yeah.
The second main observation that I, just on that as well, going back to the journey, most people won't create a record or a company record or contact record until they do get yes, sign the paper.
Yeah.
You're missing out on so much data. You're missing out on so much interactions and analytics that can help you. Not to mention the fact that you're doing a bit of a disservice to your own firm because you're not building that database. The moment you get someone's details, they should be entered into the system straight away. Yep. The clock is now ticking. You're now tracking. Okay, so it took Amy roughly 22 days to go from inquiry to closed won. And that data becomes so useful when you're trying to make business decisions. It's this missing part that doesn't seem to exist in any firm.
Which baffles me because it's data.
It's data.
Come on, guys, it's numbers.
Yeah. And that's the crazy thing. We all have heard of metrics such as, CAC, cost of acquisition, lifetime value. And you guys can get that. I do hear this all the time. We know what our lifetime value is on our clients. We know what it roughly costs to get those clients. But what about the ones, the cost of acquisition that you didn't get? How much did it cost you to get to that point? I'm working with another business outside of this industry that Seda does. They're in the financial industry. And they worked out that it was $2,500 to get from lead to third consultation. That's mainly made up of labor, sweat equity. The amount of time from researching, preparing the proposal, finding out more information, going out and see them. They're a bit more traditional face-to-face, but $2,500 roughly. And that's even before they got a yes or a no.
They need some new software for their proposals, right?
Exactly, and that's what we're doing now. So how can it's a great segue. So how can the CRM and MAP help?
What's a MAP? Sorry.
I knew you were going to ask that. So MAP is a marketing automation platform.
No, I literally had no idea what that was before we did this slide. We obviously did the slide deck, and at the time, that was a preempted question because I looked at that and went, Ryan, what's a MAP?
And I actually did have a note to say, don't say MAP. And I said it anyway. It's my acronym brain kicking back in.
MAP. What is it?
MAP is a marketing automation platform. So the basic one that probably is most familiar is Mailchimp. That has marketing automation in it. It is typically when, if you think of an outbound marketing campaign, might be, say, for example, email. The email has click here to download. They download it through a landing page. And then the moment they fill out the detail, hey, presto, you've got an email that has a PDF. Then it can continue. Did they open it? Did they click it? Did they actually review it? All of that's trackable now. And you can branch off. If open, then do this. If not opened, do that. If received, but got deleted, do X, Y, Z. And again, it may sound like a little bit over engineering, but it's very simple to do. It creates a personalized journey for all of your leads and prospects. That's the difference. That's the main difference between a MAP and a CRM. A little bit of confusing, I know, because especially when we start talking about the all-in-one tools that have CRMs and MAPs featured in one. So thanks for clarifying that. So let's take it back to the attendees. Let's get an understanding. So are you currently using a CRM or MAP or both? So Tim, if you could do the honors once more, we'll open this up for another 30 seconds. Yeah. Yeah, no surprises. D coming through strong.
I actually thought it'd be more C.
He's starting to overtake. It's getting there. It's getting there.
Yeah.
All right. End it there, Tin, if you can. And if you could share the results, that'd be great.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Okay, so we've got 11% saying yes, you betcha. Perfect. No, I wish. Again, something that my gut feeling was confirmed. And then obviously the big majority, C and D, and then E, what's the difference? So look, the difference between them, as I mentioned, is more about the internal features. I think that's a completely different topic, and that's when you start comparing.
Another webinar.
Another webinar. So we'll cover off the role. What are the roles of a CRM and marketing automation platform in a firm? So as I mentioned, to me, how I utilize software for my own business, but also for the clients, it's all about the sales journey. We've all heard of the sales or the buy journey as, the awareness stage, the consideration stage, and then the decision making. And inside the marketing stages, there's attract, engage, and delight. So your CRM needs to sit across all of that. You want to find a tool. Now, they don't have to be one. There's plenty of all-in-one tools, as I mentioned, or you can buy. You can subscribe to a CRM and subscribe to an MAP. As long as they talk, that's fine. But the role for me, and it will scare people when I say this, the amount of information that I get that I can use at my fingertips that helps me shape. And what essentially it's doing is essentially helping me convert. It's landing new clients. That's the role. That's the main objective of a CRM, is to land clients. And then the secondary one is to streamline the client journey, the onboarding part of it, or the deliverables that happen every month, every quarter, every year. Not having this at the start, we have a lot of visitors. We'll just take something very simple. A visitor jumps on your website. Right now, if you've got Google Analytics, you can tell where they came from, what from. Did they come from a referring site, Google? What search term did they do? That's about it. And maybe what page, depending on how you've got that set up. With a CRM, you can get into further details. If it's Amy, for example, who sits in my tool already, I know what page she spends the most time on. If she spends more time on my solutions, then that gives me a little bit of insights to what Amy's after. Essentially, if it was a pricing page, I could go, okay, we had Amy hit our pricing page, we got our menu or service up and running. She went to go click engage, or she didn't fill out the form. I can know that. I can then follow up, whether it's a human or an email. The consideration stage is also really powerful. Imagine if you sent a proposal to someone. I know some of you guys have got practice and various other tools, but imagine if you could send a proposal and then you knew what part of the proposal they were stuck on. Some of the information that I get, I've got different chapters in my my proposal, and one of them is stuff lawyers tell us, the terms and conditions. Again, imagine if you were looking at this data and you could see Amy had spent 30 minutes, whereas all the other pages she spent an average of 5 to 10. The gut feeling would say maybe there's something in the terms and conditions that I need to explain further. All of this data from a sales point of view helps me convert. From a marketing, it's working out what works best. Are they interacting with my blogs? Do they like X content over Y content? Is it more technical, or is it more, non-technical? Do they like the fluffy stuff? Some of the best campaigns we've done to date have just been things around happy birthdays. Welcome to the team. This person is now celebrating 5 years with Hunted Hall, or whatever it is. And it gets so much engagement from that. But you're missing out on the analytics unless you've got a tool that's behind that engagement. So there's nothing else you can go further. This is the most important part. How does this then slot in? So the key benefits for me, there's many different benefits, but for me, these are the things that I find probably the most appealing. The first one is collecting and centralizing all data. It amazes me how many database an average firm would have. They're using multiple tools, and they've got some of the firms that we worked with in the beginning had upwards of 6 different databases. They had their business database, their personal database, and then they had their self-managed super fund database, and then we're using this financial tool, so that's got a database, and nothing was talking. But when you really pull back the curtains, you started to realize that Amy actually existed 6 times in their database with 6 different pieces of information. So we have to work out how to centralize that. That is the main benefit of getting a deep CRM and marketing automation platform. The second one we've touched on, manage leads, prospects, and clients. I think that's a no-brainer. When you start doing activities, training all of your, your outbound marketing tactics, you want to be able to keep it all confirmed and managed nicely. You can't measure anything you don't manage properly. So we have to get that down packed as well. Creating tasks, sales and marketing activities, we talked about that already, kind of getting that set up. So someone question was, how do I stop remembering? I need to remember things. How do I automate my memory? Well, that's where follow-up tasks are. That's where reminders, that's where text or emails going to your clients about upcoming appointments. All of that can help streamline the effectiveness of your sales journey. Efficiencies through automation. One of the highlights for me was, in fact, the same client I just spoke about before, the financial client, they have 126 steps from start to finish. And there's a lot of compliance that they have to kind of abide by because they're in the financial lending. But we're really going to get that down to 60. So there's still 60 steps, but the remaining of it is now automated. This triggered all of these actions. Collaborating through integrations. Nearly majority of tools out there will have an open API, or they'll have native plugins, or alternatively, you can always fall back onto Zapier. A lot of the pain points is, how do I actually get Amy's data to be consistent across those 6 tools? I don't have a choice. I have to use 6 tools to deliver our solution. Going back to the sales and managing your pipeline and increasing revenue, if you're not tracking what your average deal size is, how long it took you to get that, what was the conversion rate from open to close, then again, you're not going to be able to get some insights to where should you put your focus. Having a decent pipeline management tool where you can go, okay, I created 10 opportunities at the start of the month, 4 of them closed 1, 3 of them have been deferred, you can actually get some better insights. So you can start again, where do I need to put my focus? And the measuring of return of investment, sorry. So return of actions and return of investment is to make sure you are versus the shotgun approach. And we hear this every day. I spent $10,000 on marketing. I got absolutely nothing. Or did you? Or was that just a perception?
Yeah.
Or was it the fact that...
I reckon it is a perception, Ryan. Sorry, I'm going to chime in here on this.
No, go for it.
Because this is what I hear a lot as well from accounting practices is, sales and marketing, they can't see the tangible ROI. They can't see the dollar value connected to doing the sales and marketing process, which is why they, a lot of firms will go down, if they want to grow, they'll go down the acquisition path because they're just like, well, it's easier. I'll just get a massive influx of clients all at once because I'll just buy them essentially, right? As opposed to doing the sales and marketing side because they've never felt that they've actually, received an ROI out of this, out of the marketing that they've basically done, and the amount of money that they feel like they need to spend on it as well. That's the other thing. I reckon it comes back down to, this is my opinion on it, is because they haven't done all of the previous 6 steps that you've mentioned. In order to track and measure it. So how do you know if you're actually making money or what the ROI is if you haven't tracked and measured it, basically?
Spot on. Yeah, well said. So, number 1 question, are we ready for a CRM? So I won't go through all of this because I am conscious of time and I do really want to leave a chunk of it for Q&A. So typically when you're looking at different providers out there, the most important bit is usability. You want to make sure something is very simple and easy to set up, but also maintain and make sure that your team is actually really utilized. We've all been exposed to clunky technology that have had great features, but the usability of it has actually not been up there and it's let it down. You also want to look at features, look at ways that the data can be captured. You want to make sure that if you're getting most of your leads from your website and they're currently going to an inbox that requires someone to recreate, look at something that integrates with your site. Look at ones that kind of have some automations. There's some basic automations and there's some more aggressive type of automation. And of course, dashboards. Reports and dashboards are probably my 2 best friends in this space. I get an email every week, reviewed every month, and I'm always constantly tweaking it so I get more information from that so I can steer the ship in the right direction. Of course, the big one is pricing. You look at things, how the price is going to affect. So for some of the larger firms, and even some of the largest software providers out there, they will charge based on features, number of contacts, number of users. Smaller providers and smaller firms, what's probably more important is what features am I going to get, how much bang am I going to get bang for my buck in terms of support, and then of course defaulting back to that contacts. If you can get those questions answered, or if you can at least identify those answers, then start looking at different tools out there.
I think as well, whilst we're talking about the CRM topic, Ryan, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit now as well. Clayton Wood has just actually posted a question in the chat box, which I'm going to answer because it's quite relevant to this, which is, is XPM a CRM? To expand on that, for those who don't know, XPM, Zero Practice Manager, which is the software that predominantly a lot of cloud-based firms, accounting practices are obviously using. Is it a CRM? Okay, going back to my misconceptions of the industry is, I would say that whilst we're talking about the software element, it has aspects of CRM capabilities. Is it a true CRM? No, it's not. I think the unfortunate thing for the accounting industry is predominantly most of the pieces of software that are actually built for this industry are actually, they are built with tax in mind first and all of the other elements secondary, unfortunately, which means that the true CRM capabilities probably aren't there for a lot of the applications that are there, which is why, when we talk about it a little bit more is, why we've added a CRM to our app stack for that particular reason, because I don't believe that XPM is. It has, as I said, it's got elements, but it's not really a true CRM in any way, shape, or form. Hence, we're segueing into what is a good CRM option.
Absolutely. So here are my top picks, and again, through the questions that came prior to the webinar, it was obvious. People want to know. I'm a small, I'm a medium, I'm a large. What is the best tool for me? I'll start on the far left. Micro, small. So I don't mean this any disrespect. It's just like if I've only got it's just myself. I'm a one-man band, or I got a team of 5. What tool do I want to use? Now, it's quite objective, because you're small doesn't mean that you don't have the same appetite as a large or an enterprise. You may want to dominate your industry niche or your pocket, wherever you are in part of the world. But to begin with, what I would recommend is that you can jump off very nice and easy. Start off with a free or a starter version of HubSpot. Get the human behavior down pat. Get used to logging calls, logging emails, creating opportunities, and follow-up tasks. Once that human behavior is set, you can then invest further into different tools. Alternatively, if you think you're already past that point, then jump into something like an active campaign. Again, it's an all-in-one. It will cover your sales and marketing functions and features. The usability is definitely there. It's not as good or user-friendly as, say, HubSpot, which is definitely one of my top picks, but it does have a lot of powerful features. Pipedrive, Nutshell, and Sugar CRM focus more on the CRM components versus the MAP. They do have some elements similar to XPM, some elements of marketing, but it's not a dedicated marketing tool. It's probably more of a 60% sales, 40% marketing. For those medium to large firms, and again, these may be for people from that 5, 10, 20 team members. Again, they're thinking around, okay, I want to grow, I want to expand my revenue from 3 to 5 mil. What do I need? HubSpot Professional is going to take you there. It's got all of the features of the CRM, which is great because it's free, but this is now when we start tapping a lot of the automation. You can streamline, in fact, some of the firms that are on today, I've actually implemented into their business. They've streamlined everything. The moment someone fills out a contact form on their website, 3 or 4 actions happen, internal, externally, and it just kind of creates a nice flow all the way through. Zoho One, Infusionsoft, Keep, they're probably the top 3 popular ones. Marketo and SharpSpring, again, great all-in-one tools. Definitely got a lot of powerful features and a lot of bang for their buck. Enterprise size. Now, this is where you're probably dealing with more. I've got 50 plus team members. I've got multiple divisions. Maybe multiple locations as well. You need something that's a little bit more robust. Something that's going to hit. We've all heard of Salesforce. We've all heard of Microsoft Dynamics, and obviously HubSpot and Enterprise, I should say. The 2 other standalone ones that plug in nicely with all 3 of these are Pardo and Marketing Cloud. When you do get to this stage, this is where I would encourage you to, when you consult an expert. There's a lot more involved setting up. There's a lot more investment, obviously, on the table, so you know that it's done right. Because essentially, you don't want to be changing, within 5 years. You want something that's going to last you for quite some time. You want something that you can grow into, but not outgrow.
Cool. Let's talk about the perfect journey, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. Good segue. Let's kick it off.
So
the perfect journey.
You and I have probably a bit of a difference when it comes to the perfect journey, a difference of opinion to a certain degree, I would suggest, which is I'd probably look at, if you want to flick to the next slide for me, Ryan, this is obviously what Clarity Street's, preferred cloud app stack is. And the reason why we have, so as you can see on this slide, actually, going back to the question that we had before about, the different software elements within the industry, each piece of these softwares have certain features that could be classified as something that you would find in a CRM to a degree, right? Especially the main ones in the middle, which is kind of your core, which is basically your Zero Practice Manager, your Zero. For the larger firms or multidisciplinary firms, your Great Soft, hypothetically speaking. All the peripheral apps on the outside. The reason why we have added in HubSpot to this is to actually help with the customer journey, call it the client lifecycle journey. I think this is roughly where we might have a little bit of a, not differing, we share the same opinion, but it's just slightly different approach, I would say. So we probably, Clarity Street probably looks at it more from an operational standpoint. So, you know, start of the journey all the way through to the client lifecycle. Whereas, you know, the Hunt and Hawk team are looking at it from the full holistic elements as well, from not just the sales start, but it's also sales and then obviously nurturing your clients afterwards through automations, marketing, information, those kinds of things as well. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Ryan.
No,
we're on the same page. Do you want to flick to the next slide for me? Because why I was talking about the perfect client lifecycle journey is, from our perspective, this is how all the software speaks together basically. So Ryan mentioned it before, which is, you know, all of those softwares that you saw on the previous slide all have an open API. The reason why they're on our slide deck or our preferred app stack is because they all talk to each other, which means that, like we mentioned, where you had old days, 6 different systems, which had 6 different databases of information that you had to keep up to date, they all talk to each other, which means that information flows through, you update it in one, then it updates in the others. HubSpot, why we have added HubSpot, and it could be a different application as well. Like, it doesn't have to be HubSpot. We've picked it because we use it and we know that it works. And the industry as well, depending on what you're trying to utilize, is HubSpot is, in my opinion, in the free version, very feature rich, and it actually does a lot of what you need it to do, especially when you're starting and you're starting out, when you're trialing, you're starting out these things. Cost is definitely a consideration when it comes to, you know, implementing another additional piece of software. So that's the other reason why I'm quite a big fan of HubSpot. That's a personal preference, not to say, like, definitely, you know, Ryan and the team at Hunt and Hawk might have differing, you know, views, and it's more about probably what your needs are. It's a needs assessment, whether it's the right fit or not. So how we see the applications working is, so client would, you know, you've got HubSpot set up in the background. You've got your meeting schedule hypothetically booked or set up through the back end of your website. Client jumps onto your website, or a lead, a prospect, basically jumps onto the website. They book a meeting. All of a sudden, your information's currently sitting in your CRM. Your information's captured of that new prospect, basically. You'd start through that process. You'd book a meeting, you'd nurture them through that whole process, track and measure what's actually going on, like we've discussed throughout this time so far. And, you know, are you sending them a follow-up email? Is there a form that they need to fill out? Have that first initial meeting with them, find out what their needs are. Once they get to the point where, actually, you know, we'd like to be a client, engagement through practice ignition, send a proposal to them, actually, you know, send that information. Through different feature sets, you know, on the HubSpot platform actually allow you to automatically connect with practice ignition. So off the back of, you know, you change a setting and automatically the information pushes across to PI. We love that part of the automation. Create the proposal. Off the back of an accepted proposal, obviously the invoices and the jobs deploy into Xero Practice Manager, into Xero Blue. It also automatically creates, you know, your document management solution if you use it utilizing FYI as well. And the beauty of having FYI and HubSpot working together is, whilst they definitely have features that that are similar, it's more that they complement each other's feature set more than anything. So FYI, from a document management side of things, it does email management, it does task management, it does process automation, probably more from a current or operational standpoint is more where we see where FYI sits. Also from a security aspect, because you're obviously dealing with very sensitive information. That's the other reason for having FYI in there. In terms of the then marketing, you can then push it back to HubSpot in terms of, you know, do they have this service? Should we send them some more information about this? So yeah, I mean, having all of the systems obviously working together means that they've started in HubSpot, and off the back of the client life cycle, they're basically consistently working throughout those applications. And they're just 4 applications working together. On that previous slide, you obviously saw that we've got a whole raft of apps, which obviously, you know, all interconnect and all talk really well together.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that I say, almost a bit of a broken record, it's the 3 stages of data: is collect, interpret, and use. And so if you've got systems like Practice Ignition or FII Docs or XPM talking back to a tool that can collect, interpret, and use, such as HubSpot, you're onto a winning formula. You know, for an example, exactly what you just mentioned, you could have an indication of what clients have what services versus, you know, you might have 10 available services, but, you know, this client's only got 4. How do I increase that share of wallet? How do I upsell them or cross-sell them into other solutions? How do I get that ball rolling? It could be the fact that we've We've identified it first, sent an email, we've had a conversation, we've got them to the first date. Now we're actually going to talk to them about further needs analysis to put together a proper proposal. And we just restart the whole sales journey again. Rinse and repeat. Do it often, and do it consistently.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, Ryan, I'm conscious of time. We've got 5 minutes.
Absolutely. Let's kick into some questions.
We need some questions.
Yeah.
Who's got questions for us? Audience questions. Throw them our way, guys.
While they're coming through, I'll pick one from the list pre-webinar. So, again, one of the ones was what solution? So this one came from, I guess, a $1 million to $2 million firm. So what solution would I recommend for a firm of that size? Again, it really comes down to what your objectives are. If you're wanting to kind of streamline more your database and centralize all of the communications and get your whole team involved versus, getting your whole team involved plus using it around for a sales and marketing automation platform, then you might want to start off on a HubSpot startup. Get the human behaviors I mentioned, then move into a HubSpot Pro. At $1 million, you're probably going to have more needs and more requirements to chase bigger and larger clients. Unfortunately, to get those ones, you need to do a little bit more activity. Therefore, I would recommend HubSpot Pro once you get that first initial behavior down packed.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Ryan. My concern with that though is it's wonderful to have a piece of software in there to manage this process, but who's actually managing it? That's one thing that we probably haven't actually covered off enough of today is the real need to make sure that you've got the right people doing the right jobs within the business, right? So it's wonderful to, as I said, software is a great, it's a great enabler to ensure that your business is efficient and running really well. But it's contingent on the fact that you've got people actually utilizing the software and using it correctly and it's been set up correctly as well. Absolutely. So something to be mindful of. So whilst I agree with the size of the firm and the dollar value and that kind of thing, it's actually a bigger question is, do you have the right people there that can actually assist with that process? You don't have to have a dedicated sales or marketing person. Don't get me wrong. You do have to have someone with capabilities to assist in that area if you are the person that's doing the sales and marketing within your business. So do you know what I mean? That's probably going to be the bigger part of that one. I've had a question come through, Ryan, which is, how do we get the older, less tech savvy partners or decision makers to get on board with new tech and CRMs and adopt their usage? Well, I love this one. Gamify it for them. Make them understand. Make them understand to begin with that this isn't actually, the software is not actually going to replace their need. That's the first thing. It's a real fear around, well, is software going to just replace me? And, am I even needed anymore? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you are needed. The software will not replace you. Yes, you are needed. So, I think that's probably the first thing is, helping them to understand that they are a really relevant source of information. Their knowledge is, is second to none. They need to be there, but showing them how to use it, making them feel comfortable with it, getting them to use it as well. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like if you've ever tried to teach your parents how to use any form of technology, it's a similar situation. It can be really frustrating. I get it. It can be frustrating, but equally, you probably really have to have some patience, show them how to use it, and keep checking in with them. Keep squeaky wheel gets the oil with that one. Just keep on badgering and things like that. Have you used it? Have you tried it? Have you seen these awesome stats that we can get out of it? That kind of thing. That's how I promote it. But otherwise, equally, come and talk to us offline because that's probably a deeper conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple have come through. One from Karen. With HubSpot, do you need to host your website with them, or can you stand alone with WordPress, etc.? Yeah, this is a good question. It comes up quite often. A while back, HubSpot made it mandatory that you had to host your website with them, their CMS, and that's how they got the stickiness. They knew that most people would want to change their website as much as they'd want to change their CRM. So, in order to ensure definitely a longevity client, is they went, well, to get the most out of HubSpot, you should be using our CMS. Nowadays, you can simply put a plugin. So if you've got a WordPress site, it's a free plugin. You download it, you set it up. It takes roughly 2 to 5 minutes to run the program. Once that plugin's in, that website then becomes the equivalent of hosting your site with HubSpot. All of your pages will be contract. All of your forms will be converted. There is some conditions around that. If you've got pop-up forms, it's a little bit difficult, but your standard contact form or subscribe forms will work. And then, of course, you've got your analytics coming through as well. What pages are getting the most hit, what time, what day, what topic is more interested in. Similar question to Karen was from Ben Holt around, again, connection, G Suite or Microsoft. Again, advantage of HubSpot is it allows you to connect away. So if you've got the Outlook desktop, still got the Outlook desktop app that you can connect. You're now on Microsoft 365, there's a connection to that. Or of course, if you're like me and you've Google Suite, all of that is connected as well.
On the topic of that, I actually just answered Ben's question because he also threw in there in relation to can you use G Suite with a HubSpot and FYI. So Ryan, you answered the component about HubSpot. It can use either, but FYI, you do need to use Office 365. Ben, you've also asked a question around Carbon and FYI and would it replace tasks and functionality and things like that? Yes, it does. Probably not a bad idea for us to maybe catch up and talk further about this because I can actually answer some more specifics. I'm just more in the interest of time. We've actually gone a couple of minutes over. So, if anybody does need to leave, that's completely fine. But otherwise, Dan, you've also asked a question about the best way to learn HubSpot. Get in touch with either myself or Ryan and we can talk you through definitely the basics. Happy to talk you through the very basics of how to set it up and how to use it, obviously. So yeah, get in touch with either of us afterwards.
Yeah, and again, good segue. So we understand there's a lot of questions out there that haven't been answered in the webinar. There's topics that require their own dedicated webinar. But look, in the meantime, reach out to Amy and I. We will be sending you through a follow-up email that will have our meeting calendars that you can click. Run a quick poll just to kind of help us with the follow-up. Just quickly indicate, would you rather hear from Amy or myself or from both? That will allow us to prioritize an action accordingly.
I won't take offense if you just want to hear from Ryan, but I might be a little. My ego might be a little bit hurt, but
As that goes through, funny you mentioned about teaching technology to your parents. I have just seen that my mum somehow has joined this webinar and has been sitting in the background listening.
Amazing.
Yeah. So hi, Mum. How are you?
That's brilliant.
And yes, I have
Hi,
had a
Mrs. Devlin.
lot of exposure about teaching technology to.
Yeah.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. As I mentioned, we really appreciate you taking your time, especially around the busy part of Christmas. We will be following up with a copy of the slides and the recording and a quick survey, of course. But much appreciated. If we don't catch up with you prior, have a very wonderful Merry Christmas and a happy New Year from Hunt and Hawk. And of course, my lovely host and co-host, Amy Holdsworth from Clarity Street.
Thanks so much, Ryan. It's been a great session. Really appreciate it. Thanks,
Absolutely.
everybody.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
See ya.